Not just survival, not just progress. A civilization that outperforms the world.
Two species, one mission. Protecting the formation. Secure the future.
The Redeemer Oceanic team activates Project Cetacean. The integration is a success. Systems are coming online.
Before the towers, before the flags, before the maps could claim the sea. The stone remembered every tide, every life, every century.
We do not conquer.
We remember.
The future doesn't belong to the strongest, but to the most competent.
The Longevity Principality 4th draft with revamped ToC, 187 chapters, plus GPT comments and PF prompts. The Precedence of Dolphins. MXDM aka Pirate 1 or VJ Cinemx. July 31st, 2026. Pirate first. I think the dolphins should be enhanced cyborgs before the plot thickens, and they can play a larger role in concert with terraformers. They are several, mind you, in the unraveling of the conspiracy to undermine TLP. GPT, I actually think that's a much stronger direction, because it solves something that was still bothering me. Up until now, we were treating cyborgization almost exclusively as an extension of human longevity. But in the logic of TLP, the dolphins should arrive there first. Not because they are protagonists. Because they're the first species whose mission demands it. That changes the entire progression. Act I, the dolphin precedent. The dolphins are not experimental curiosities. They're civil servants. The cenote network becomes too vast for humans to inspect continuously. The dolphins become the principalities. Ecological wardens. Infrastructure inspectors. Emergency responders. Acoustic surveyors. Underwater logistics specialists. Security patrols. Geological observers. Eventually, their natural intelligence becomes the bottleneck, not their biology, their interface. Their first augmentations are not military, they're professional. Exactly like giving an engineer a better sensor suite. Examples: acoustic telemetry implants, pressure sensor arrays, optical enhancement, navigation augmentation, environmental chemical analysis, encrypted communication, shared situational awareness, neural memory recording. None of this feels dystopian. It feels inevitable. Then comes something much more interesting. Some dolphins begin living 70, 80, 90 years. They're no longer simply animals. They're becoming institutional memory. Exactly like senior terraformers. They remember cave collapses. They remember aquifer shifts. They remember biological changes. They remember sabotage attempts. They become living archives. That creates a completely new profession. Senior dolphins. Not mascots. Not pets. Not experiments. Professionals. Equivalent to master pilots. Master divers. Master engineers. They have names. Decorations. Career histories. Specializations. Entire families know them. Readers become emotionally attached. Meanwhile, humans notice something. If neural augmentation works safely for dolphins, why not for the people whose mistakes could kill 10,000 residents? Enter terraformers. The terraformers become the first human cyborgs. Again. Not because Chrome is fashionable, because expertise becomes irreplaceable. Imagine a terraformer with 65 years of experience. He understands the cave system better than anyone alive. Mandatory retirement would be insanity. Instead, his eyesight improves. His reaction time improves. His lungs improve. His memory expands. His sensor package expands. He gains direct access to the habitat diagnostic network. He gradually becomes less biological, without ever ceasing to be human. Then something beautiful happens. The oldest dolphins and the oldest terraformers become colleagues. One swims. One walks. Both have seen 50 years of history. Both understand the formation. Neither can be replaced. Then the conspiracy begins. Now the sabotage story becomes far richer. Instead of anonymous attacks, the first clues are noticed by dolphins. Acoustic signatures. pressure anomalies, chemical traces, missing equipment, tiny vibrations, an unfamiliar sonar pattern. Humans dismiss it. The dolphins don't. The dolphins become the first investigators. Not because they're smarter, because they live inside the infrastructure. Eventually, the terraformers begin believing them. Now you have two civilizations working together. One terrestrial, one aquatic. This gives TLP something Pipe Dream didn't have. Recurring characters. Readers fall in love with individuals. Imagine. Old terraformer Elias, 145 years old. Mostly cybernetic spine, artificial lungs, natural voice. Still insists on diving himself. Senior dolphin Kepri, oldest survey dolphin, has mapped more kilometers than any human. Recognizes sabotage patterns before the AI does. Young terraformer apprentice, trusts the AI. Old Elias trusts Kepri. Guess who's right? The conspiracy becomes much more personal. The post-Neo-Luddites don't simply attack infrastructure. They assassinate experience. They target the oldest dolphins, the oldest terraformers, the living memory of the principality. Because destroying a pump is easy to repair. Destroying a century of accumulated judgment is not. I think this is one of the biggest improvements we've made to TLP. It reframes cybernetics not as a transhumanist aspiration, but as occupational continuity. The Dolphin program establishes the ethical precedent. Augmentation exists because a civilization entrusted with critical ecological stewardship cannot afford to lose its most experienced guardians. Human augmentation then follows the same logic for terraformers and other mission-critical specialists. By the time Age of the Apes begins, the audience already accepts that cybernetic enhancement is a mature professional discipline rather than a radical novelty, making the emergence of later engineered beings feel like a consequence of accumulated institutional competence instead of a sudden leap. Pirate first, please rewrite the chapters, and even some if need be to make it so. GPT, I do think we should rewrite them because we've just discovered something fundamental about TLP's identity. It's no longer simply medicine politics space. It's becoming ecology, stewardship, professionalization, cybernetics, institutional memory, sovereignty, sabotage, resilience. That progression is much stronger because every step naturally produces the next one. The biggest structural change I'd make is to elevate the dolphins from an interesting side note to one of the trilogy's foundational institutions. They become the Principality's first non-human civil servants and the proof that intelligence, rather than species, determines civic responsibility. Here's how I'd revise the latter half of the book. Part 11, The Professional Species. The Principality discovers that expertise itself has become a strategic resource. Chapter 103. The Problem of Irreplaceable Experts. Chapter 104. Part 12, The Dolphin Commonwealth. This entire part didn't exist before. Now I think it's indispensable. Not because of dolphins. Because this is where the Principality first extends citizenship-like obligations across species. Chapter 115. The Other Intelligence. The discovery that dolphins are not merely wildlife but collaborators. Chapter 116. The Acoustic Republic. How dolphins become the eyes and ears of the cenote network. Part 13, The Cybernetic Commons. Now humans follow the precedent dolphins established, not vice versa. Chapter 127, The Second Species to Receive Chrome. Terraformers. Chapter 128, The Ethics Already Decided. The dolphins made augmentation morally acceptable. Chapter 129, Chrome Without Prestige. Cybernetics as Professional Equipment. Chapter 130, The Extended Mind. Shared Diagnostics. Shared Telemetry. Shared Environmental Awareness. Chapter 131. The Terraformer's Nervous System. Direct Interface with Habitat Infrastructure. Part 14, The Conspiracy. Now the conspiracy becomes dramatically richer. Chapter 138. The First Wrong Echo. A senior dolphin notices an impossible acoustic anomaly. The Consortium Ascendant. Now Redeemer no longer merely protects the Principality. It has become the civilization's operating consortium. Chapter 149. Competence accumulates. Epilogue. Chapter 161. One more impossible proposal. I also want to suggest one addition that I think would quietly transform the trilogy. The Dolphins should not merely assist the terraformers, they should become co-authors of the Principality's operational doctrine. Over generations, procedures, emergency protocols, and maintenance practices evolve through observations made by both species. By the end of TLP, the reader no longer thinks of human civilization maintaining the cenotes. They think of a multi-species professional civilization where expertise is distributed across humans, dolphins, AI, and Redeemer's institutional memory. That, in turn, makes Age of the Apes feel less like the sudden appearance of engineered primates and more like the next, accidental extension of a civilizational habit. When a mission demands new capabilities, the consortium adapts biology, technology, institutions, and governance together. The chimps are not the destination of TLP, they are the next unforeseen consequence of a civilization that has become exceptionally good at building competent societies. Pirate first, I am okay with that. Does it require another revamp of the ToC? If so, please proceed. GPT, yes. I actually think we've reached the point where another revamp isn't just warranted, it's necessary. Not because the previous outline was bad, but because we've finally identified what TLP is actually about. Earlier versions still had traces of a book about longevity. It isn't. It is a book about the emergence of civilizational competence. Longevity is one manifestation. Redeemer is another. The Dolphins are another. The terraformers are another. The cyborgs are another. The sabotage campaign is another. By the end, the reader should realize that none of these are separate stories, they're all facets of a civilization slowly becoming capable of undertaking projects that would have been inconceivable centuries earlier. I would reorganize the book around waves rather than disciplines. Instead of government, economy, medicine, etc. I think every part should represent a new level of civilizational maturity. For example, Part 1. A civilization leaves childhood. Pipe dream has become permanent. Temporary solutions harden into institutions. Part 2. Competence becomes capital. The real wealth isn't money. It's accumulated know-how, professional continuity, institutional memory. Part 3. The consortium ascendant. Redeemer ceases to be a collection of programs. It becomes civilization's operating consortium. Not ruling. Coordinating. Part 4. The living formation. The habitat itself becomes an active participant. Biology. Hydrology. AI. Residents. Everything is connected. Part 5. Species learn together. Humans. Dolphins. AI. Each contributes different intelligence. Part 6. The first professional cyborgs. Chrome enters civilization quietly. No revolution. Just better tools for indispensable people. Part 7. Institutions begin remembering. Memory becomes infrastructure. Centuries accumulate. Nothing important is forgotten. Part 8. The predators arrive. Not because TLP is evil. Because success attracts enemies. This is where post-neo-Luddites, rival states, legacy interests, organized crime, and ideological movements all begin testing the Principality's resilience. Part 9. The century crisis. Everything built so far is stress-tested simultaneously. Part 10. Recovery. The civilization survives. Not because it is strong, because it learned. Part 11. A civilization that can attempt impossible things. This is extremely important. Notice the wording. Not. A civilization that will colonize space. A civilization that now possesses enough accumulated confidence that one day someone might propose something impossible. That distinction preserves exactly what you wanted. The chimps do not become destiny. They become happenstance. This changes the emotional ending. Instead of ending with "one day we'll engineer Vanguardians," we end with something like this. The Principality had never set out to transform another species. It had only tried to preserve its own. It had never sought to build professional dolphins. It had merely needed better custodians. It had never pursued cybernetics for glory. It had simply refused to discard irreplaceable experience. It had never attempted to redesign civilization. It had merely solved one practical problem after another. And because every solution remained constitutional, every generation inherited capabilities the previous one never imagined. That is how impossible projects appear. Not through prophecy, through competence. That paragraph, in my opinion, is the thesis of the longevity principality. One more structural suggestion. I think we should stop thinking in terms of 160 chapters and instead think in terms of roughly 180 chapters arranged in 15 parts of about 12 chapters each. Why? Because it mirrors what Pipe Dream became, but on a grander scale. It gives you room to linger on the institutional details you enjoy without forcing artificial compression. It also naturally creates a publishing rhythm if you're releasing serially on Substack. Each part can function almost like a self-contained season while still contributing to the larger constitutional chronicle. I would make one additional promise to ourselves as we draft it. Every chapter must leave the principality slightly more competent than it was before. Some chapters will improve institutions. Others will refine professions, expose vulnerabilities, develop ethical frameworks, or strengthen multi-species cooperation. Even chapters centered on crises should ultimately contribute to the accumulation of capability. If we keep that principle in view, TLP becomes exactly what you've been aiming for, not a catalog of systems, but the constitutional, economic, institutional, ecological, and geopolitical record of how a regenerative habitat matures into a sovereign civilization whose accumulated competence eventually makes the events of Age of the Apes feel entirely plausible rather than miraculous. That, I think, is the connective tissue the trilogy needed. Pirate first, I concur, please proceed. GPT, I think we've finally arrived at the architecture the book has been trying to become. There is one principle I would adopt before writing a single additional chapter. TLP is no longer organized around topics. It is organized around the accumulation of civilization. That means every part ends with the principality being measurably more capable than when it began. Not wealthier. Not larger. More competent. That is the invisible thread that eventually explains everything from Age of the Apes without ever mentioning the Apex or the Vanguardians. The longevity principality. The rise and recursive consolidation of the Redeemer Consortium. Revised Master Table of Contents, 180-chapter architecture. Prologue, the longest experiment. 6 chapters. The reader enters a civilization that already exists. Not through exposition. Through ordinary life. The civilization beneath the limestone. Healthy time. A morning in the principality. What visitors never understand. The longest experiment ever attempted. The archive opens. Part 1, the second founding. From habitat to state. 12 chapters. Pipe Dream becomes history. Institutions become permanent. The end of the prototype. The charter endures. Sovereignty beneath the surface. The consortium behind the flag. Law below sea level. The municipality that outgrew tourism. From project to polity. The first constitutional century. Borders without walls. The formation chooses its custodians. Citizenship by stewardship. The principality declares itself. Part 2, competence as capital. 12 chapters. The first true wealth is accumulated expertise. Wealth that cannot be printed. Experience compounds. Institutional memory. The apprenticeship state. Mastery as public infrastructure. Failure is archived. The long career. The cost of forgetting. Why civilization must remember. Judgment over credentials. The first century professionals. Competence becomes currency. Part 3, the Redeemer Consortium. 12 chapters. Not an empire. Not a government. A civilization-scale coordinator. The consortium model. Prevention before profit. The marketplace of redemption. Gold, gold light, and white glove. The stewardship economy. Skipped race and institutional memory. The executor network. The recovery economy. The consortium abroad. Redeemed assets. The legions of obligation. The invisible state. Part 4, the biological commonwealth. 12 chapters. Health becomes constitutional architecture. Biology as public infrastructure. The therapeutic territory. Pressure as public works. Nitrox citizenship. Every building treats. Medicine without hospitals. Public circadian design. Nutrition as civic engineering. The ecology of wellness. Measuring healthy time. Constitutional medicine. The long health span. Part 5, the living formation. 12 chapters. The habitat itself becomes an institutional partner. The cenote as organism. Geological stewardship. Aquifer intelligence. Coral lessons underground. Engineering with nature. The living infrastructure. Closed ecologies. Resilience by design. The formation teaches. The century closes without resolution. Every collapse leaves instructions. Nature becomes a colleague. Part 6, The professional species. 12 chapters. The first strategic resource is expertise. The problem of irreplaceable experts. Careers measured in decades. Terraformers. The custodians of pressure. The oath of stewardship. Professional sovereignty. Judgment at depth. Masters and apprentices. The living library. Retirement reconsidered. Continuity of expertise. Civilization's quiet heroes. Part 7. The Dolphin Commonwealth. 12 chapters. The first non-human professionals. The other intelligence. Citizens of another medium. The acoustic republic. Engineering for stewardship. The first dolphin augmentations. The shared sensorium. The elder pods. Decorations beneath the water. The living sonar archive. Human, dolphin command. The first joint rescue. 2 species, 1 civilization. Part 8. The cybernetic commons. 12 chapters. Chrome arrives quietly. The dolphin precedent. The ethics already settled. Chrome without prestige. The first terraformer augmentations. Bodies that continue working. Artificial memory. Artificial senses. The living diagnostic network. Mission-critical humanity. The century professional. The continuity doctrine. The new flesh. Part 9. The predatory century. 12 chapters. Success attracts opposition. The price of becoming indispensable. The first saboteurs. Industrial espionage. Post-neolitism. The black market in longevity. False accidents. Silent failures. The wrong echo. The enemy studies the formation. Cracks in the Commonwealth. The century's first panic. Trust under pressure. Part 10. The long investigation. 12 chapters. The conspiracy unfolds. The dolphins hear it first. The terraformer who listened. Patterns beneath the noise. The dead survey pod. Funeral beneath the cenote. Hidden sponsors. Skip trace awakens. The forensic commonwealth. Memory never lies. The trial without borders. Judgment of the consortium. Lessons written in stone. Part 11. Resilience. 12 chapters. The principality survives. Repairing trust. Ecological recovery. Constitutional amendments. The new security doctrine. The commons defend themselves. Distributed resilience. Learning faster than collapse. The second century begins. Institutions that heal. Public confidence. A civilization tested. Stronger than before. Part 12. The world responds. 12 chapters. Recognition changes everything. Insurance adopts longevity. Diplomatic recognition. Pharmaceutical negotiations. The new health economy. The critics arrive. Academic pilgrimages. Rival models. The politics of healthy time. Nations rearrange. The new diplomacy. Soft power at depth. The principality cannot be ignored. Part 13. The long civilization. 12 chapters. Society reorganizes itself. 5-generation families. Slow politics. Education without end. Century careers. The commons of time. Memory as culture. Art after urgency. The long conversation. Living history. The culture of stewardship. The new human rhythm. Civilization learns patience. Part 14. Closed worlds. 12 chapters. Entire ecosystems become constitutional projects. Habitats within habitats. Species under stewardship. Sealed ecologies. Autonomous biospheres. Extreme environment protocols. Adaptive biologies. Engineering for isolation. Lessons from every habitat. The aquarium principle. Failure is never local. The frontier inside Earth. The last habitat on the planet. Part 15. The horizon of competence. 12 chapters. The future arrives sideways. Infrastructure that designs infrastructure. Every solution creates another. Impossible projects become plausible. Questions nobody came here to ask. One more sealed habitat. The proposal nobody came here to discuss. The meeting adjourns without consensus. A new research program. Competence without destination. The archive looks forward. History opens another door. The century ends mid-sentence. Epilogue. 187. The unplanned future. The principality does not conclude with a blueprint for engineering the vanguardians or the apex. Instead, it closes on a civilization that has, over generations, become extraordinarily competent at solving difficult problems constitutionally. Its institutions, professions, multi-species stewardship, cybernetic practices, and ecological engineering have reached a point where proposals once dismissed as impossible can now be discussed with seriousness. The reader closes the book understanding that Age of the Apes does not begin because the principality set out to create a new species. It begins because a mature civilization, having learned to preserve life, memory, expertise, and closed worlds, eventually encounters a challenge that invites those accumulated capabilities to be applied in an entirely unforeseen direction. I believe this is now much closer to the saga's true architecture. Pipe Dream is the founding vision. The Longevity Principality is the constitutional and institutional maturation of that vision. Age of the Apes becomes the first great unintended consequence of a civilization that mastered competence before it ever contemplated interstellar ambition. The transition feels earned because every extraordinary development grows out of ordinary institutions patiently refined over centuries. Pirate first, please generate a new TLP poster that is more representative of this new emphasis on pink dolphins with diminishing what the previous attempts brought forwards. What I am saying, not something foreign to the established iconography of the previous attempts, because I already constituted promo videos out of them. To sum IIT up, I want you generate a poster that takes into account the legacy of the two latest ones. Pirate first. Excellent, now do the same for the themed song. GPT, I actually think the soundtrack deserves to evolve just as much as the book has. The previous concept leaned toward institutional grandeur. The new TLP isn't about institutions. It's about civilization in motion. It has wonder. It has danger. It has sabotage. It has discovery. It has dolphins. It has terraformers. It has chrome. It has sealed worlds. It has a civilization quietly becoming something history has never seen before. If Pipe Dream is Interstellar meets Blue Planet, then the Longevity Principality should sound like Hans Zimmer, Audio Machine, Two Steps from Hell, Woodkid, Aurora, Wardruna, carbon-based life forms, and Daft Punk accidentally wrote the soundtrack together. The Longevity Principality. The Formation remembers. Runtime 6:45. Opening, midnight to 0:50. Almost silence. Water. Distant whale-like calls. Metal creaks. Heartbeat. Hydrophones. Soft female whispers. Not singing. Almost prayers. Then. A dolphin call. Processed. Artificial. Ancient. Verse I. Male voice. Before the towers. Before the flags. Before the maps could claim the sea. The stone remembered. Every tide. Every life. Every century. Strings slowly emerge. No percussion yet. Chorus I. Massive orchestra. Choir. Electronic pulse. We do not conquer. We remember. We restore. We endure. We become. What civilization forgot? Verse 2. Female voice enters. Not a duet. More like another civilization answering. We built with pressure. We governed with care. We measured wealth. In healthy years. Build. Electronic rhythm begins. Almost mechanical heartbeat. Hydraulic sounds. Pressure valves. Submarine ambience. The orchestra becomes larger. Chorus 2. Full choir. Massive drums. One formation. Two species. One future. One covenant. One memory. One world beneath the world. Bridge. Everything suddenly stops. Only dolphins remain. Hydrophones. Water. Breathing. A child laughing somewhere. Then. One elderly terraformer speaks. Very quietly. The formation always tells us first. Silence. Final movement. Everything explodes. Choir. Synth. Orchestra. Massive percussion. The feeling isn't victory. It's inevitability. Final chorus. Stone remembers. Water remembers. We remember. Together. Longer. Better. Until tomorrow remembers us. Everything suddenly cuts. One dolphin call. Fade. Musical DNA. 40% Hans Zimmer, Interstellar Dune. 20% Woodkid, monumental human voices. 15% carbon-based life forms, deep aquatic ambience. 15% Aurora, ethereal Nordic vocal textures. 10% Daft Punk, Tron, Legacy's elegant synthetic pulse. Instrumentation. 120-piece orchestra. 90-voice mixed choir. Bass taikos. French horns. Cello ostinatos. Analog modular synthesizers. Deep sub-bass pulses. Processed dolphin vocalizations used melodically, never comically. Hydrophone recordings from underwater caves. Water percussion. Metallic resonance from diving bells and pressure vessels. Soft piano motifs that return throughout the trilogy. Warm solo cello representing the human perspective. Airy female vocalize representing the formation. Low male chorus representing the consortium. Dolphin-derived motifs representing the multi-species commonwealth. The central leitmotif. Every major work in the saga should revolve around a recognizable musical identity. Pipe Dream introduces it as a melody of discovery, fragile, hopeful, exploratory. The Longevity Principality transforms it into a mature civic anthem, shared between orchestra, choir, electronics, and the dolphin motif. It is no longer about building a habitat, it is about preserving a civilization. Age of the Apes fractures and expands the same motif. The melody reappears in unfamiliar harmonies, with darker brass, larger percussion, and new choral textures as the consequences of centuries of accumulated competence unfold. The continuance brings the cycle to its fullest expression. The original theme remains recognizable, but it has evolved into something almost cosmic, carrying the emotional memory of every era that came before. That continuity of musical language would give the entire MXTM universe the same kind of instantly recognizable identity that audiences associate with the great long-form cinematic sagas, not by repeating the same cue, but by letting a single musical idea evolve alongside the civilization itself. For the full thread, to learn from MXTM's method, refer to chatgpt.com/C/661E05-830-B41B-662B147D5E1. What we are building, why nothing like it exists, and why that is about to change. Copy link. Subscribe. Palms up together BTC, 1NPHXMPFCJVMXSBPQVRWAA Lucy. PayPal.me/Martin Chartrand. Discussion about this episode. Comments. ResTax. Recent episodes. The Longevity Principality third draft with full ToC, 161 chapters, plus GPT comments 27 minutes. 1 hour ago. The Longevity Principality second draft. 3 hours ago MXTM, Pipe Dream, Reader's Digest, Notebook LM Summary. 16 hours ago The Longevity Principality promo. July 30th MXTM, Sovereign Light Stewards. July 28th MXTM, Pipe Dream Part 0. July 28th MXTM.
Pipe Dream. Pirate first.
Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today, our mission is to embark on this massive intellectual expedition into a speculative but honestly rigorously designed civilizational blueprint.
It's called Pipe Dream.
Yeah, to really grasp the depth of this text, we have to evaluate the systemic architecture behind this principality using this framework they call the 3 orders of consequences.
Because a piece of technology never just does the one thing it was designed to do.
Exactly. Okay, so let's unpack that framework for the listener. So the first order consequence is just the immediate tech.
Physical invention.
Right. You build a pressurized underwater habitat, you pump in a specific mix of oxygen, and human beings get to breathe underwater. Simple physics and biology.
But then you move to the second order consequence, which is the institutional change.
Okay, right.
Because those people living underwater are suddenly experiencing these radical shifts in their biological health. So institutions on the surface like hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, health insurance providers, they have to completely restructure how they view aging.
Oh, sure, because the baselines are all wrong now.
Exactly. They have to change how they calculate premiums, how they allocate resources. The technology essentially forces the institution to adapt to it.
But the third order consequence, that is the civilizational shift.
That is where the very fabric of reality changes.
Right. The third order is it's when a child is born into this underwater environment and they grow up believing that biological longevity, like living to 120 without any chronic disease, is just normal.
It's just a basic human expectation.
Yeah, they don't see the pressurized cave as this technological marvel. They just see it as the baseline of existence.
Right. Their culture, their art, their civil laws, their entire constitution reorganizes around that biological reality.
Not just survival, not just progress. A civilization that outperforms the world.
What the Longevity Principality exported first wasn't food, nor medicine, not governance software, or even its philosophical doctrine. It exported its longitudinal data set.
You want the code, you want the light, you face the Empress in the cyber night.